Hey, what's up you guys? My name's Mina. Welcome to my channel, Mina Reads, and today we are doing another installment of Mina Reads Your Faves. This is a series on my channel in which I pick one of my favorite booktubers and I read some of their favorite books. So for this installment of Mina Reads Your Faves, we're going to be doing Erin from Booked and Busy. Erin is a close personal friend. I absolutely love her. She's amazing. She is my fantasy queen. I go to her for all of my fantasy recs and I really love her. She's an amazing creator. I'm going to leave the link to her channel in the description below. But yeah, I've been following Erin's channel for about a year now and I just really love her. I think she's truly amazing. And she also has a book club called the Busy Bee Book Club, which is an adult fantasy book club here on BookTube. I'm going to leave links to like all the Busy Bee Book Club socials as well as Erin's personal socials in the description below. But for this installment, we are going to be reading 4 books. We're going to be reading The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin, Red Rising by Pierce Brown, Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, and Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. So I've got lots of reading to do. All of it is adult fantasy and I'm intimidated but very excited. So let's get started. Like, in a very ridiculous turn of events, I have already read and like completed the 5th season. I really meant to vlog this. I did mean to vlog it, but every time I wanted to pick up the camera and like say something, I was just going to spew out spoilers, and I don't want to spoil the experience of reading this for anyone because like I don't know, the twists and turns and the revelations are really something that you should experience for yourself without, like, you know, being spoiled or whatever. So I didn't want to go too in depth when I was reading. And so yeah, I'm basically just going to try and recap as much of my reading experience with this book as I possibly can with you guys. So The 5th Season is an absolutely incredible novel. I loved it so much. I have already ordered the 2nd and 3rd book in the trilogy. I need to read them immediately. Like, I'm obsessed. I read this entire book in 24 hours and this is like a maybe 450 page book. So me reading that in 24 hours is like a huge achievement for me personally. Fantasy usually takes me a long time to get through, so the fact that I was able to read this in less than 24 hours, like, it really speaks to how amazing it was, how gripping it was, and how much I could not put it down. I also listened to the audiobook as I was like reading along, and the audiobook narration is amazing, so I would highly recommend listening to it on audio if you can. But let's get into the 5th season, what it's about. So the 5th season is a post-apocalyptic fantasy, and we essentially follow 3 different point of views. So in one point of view, we are following a woman named Esun, and her husband has just murdered her son and kidnapped her daughter, and so she is looking for him because she's planning to kill him and save her daughter. So we're following Esun as she's going on this journey. We're also following a young girl named Demaya as well, and Demaya is a Aura Gene, and Aura Genes have this power they have like this earth magic basically, and they can control like seismic shifts in the earth. And then we also have another character named Cyanite, and Cyanite is a young woman who is a part of the Fulcrum, and the Fulcrum is a place that like trains Aura Genes to wield their power. So the Aura Genes are really important in this society because they help calm like the tectonic plates in this continent called the Stillness. And basically in the Stillness, they constantly have these things called 5th seasons, which are these really horrible apocalyptic natural disasters that happen semi-frequently. Like every few centuries, they experience a 5th season, which is like really devastating, has a huge human toll. But Aura Genes are used to try and prevent 5th seasons from occurring, prevent certain natural disasters from happening. So they can prevent like volcanoes from erupting, they can prevent tsunamis from happening, and things like that. Like, I'm getting my roof fixed and I'm certain that you can hear the drilling, so I'm sorry about that, but let's continue anyway. So basically the Aura Genes are really important to maintaining this society and keeping the continent like floating basically, but they are a really oppressed class. And so Demaya, when she is found to be an Aura Gene, she is sent away promptly to the Fulcrum, and her family completely disowns her. And then Esun, we find that she has been hiding her identity as an Aura Gene for 10 years while she was raising her children and being married to her husband. So at the beginning of this book, when Esun is going out to find her children, to find her child rather, it is the beginning of a new 5th season, and some incredible natural disaster has occurred that is going to invoke a new 5th season. So there's a lot of stuff going on. The world building in this book is literally incredible. I think that it has to be some of the best world building I've ever experienced, because N.K. Jemisin does not waste any time with exposition. She just immediately throws you into the book knowing nothing, understanding nothing, and she just wants you to just roll with the punches until you really figure it out for yourself. And I love that. All this information is so strategically placed and so well balanced that I never felt like I was bored or bogged down by info dumping or anything like that. Like, it was just incredible how as you go through, the more chapters you read, the more the world unfolds before you. It was just like, it was brilliant. It was so iconic. Her characters are really, really interesting. I really love them and I felt for them. I felt for Esun, and like, I love her rage and like her bitterness, her anger, her passion, and her intense determination to find her daughter. Like, this icon, this legend. So yeah, I really love Esun. I think she's a really interesting character. I think my favorite point of view is Cyanite's point of view, however, because Cyanite's point of view is really interesting. So Cyanite, as I mentioned, she is a Origin who works for the Fulcrum, and she's like an adult basically. And so we see how this society is treating full-grown Origins and how they use them to maintain, you know, stability on this continent of the stillness. So basically they use her, they send her out on missions to like help with natural disasters in local areas, but they also force Origins to like breed. They're in like a breeding program, and it's like really fucked up. And basically she ends up having to do this like breeding program stuff with this guy named Alabaster, who's going to be like her new mentor. And with Alabaster, she's like really radicalized, and she realizes how fucked up this whole Fulcrum society versus Origins thing really is. And I loved her and Alabaster's dynamic. I loved Alabaster so much. He's such an interesting character. This book is just like, it's amazing on so many levels, and I can't even really describe to you like how good it is, because it was absolutely fucking fantastic. Like, has to be one of the best books I've read ever. Definitely one of the best fantasy I've ever read, and it absolutely deserves to have won the Hugo Award, because this is like, nobody is doing it like N.K. Jemisin. Like, I don't know exactly how to describe it so you will understand, but this book is it's just brilliant, phenomenal in all ways. Like, the characters, the world building, the plot, and also like the way that she, like I mentioned, the way she reveals information is so iconic. Like, I have never felt so shook. Like, every page feels like a plot twist, even if it's not a plot twist happening. Every single time I find out a new bit of information, I'm still shook, like just gagged, because I don't know, the way she writes is just, it's so gripping, and it's amazing. And like, I'm not even a visual reader, but I felt like I could visualize everything. Like, it was a very cinematic experience reading this book. Like, it's just absolutely fucking phenomenal. I don't know what else to say. Basically, you need to read this book, and Aaron definitely has good taste for loving this series. This book is fucking amazing. So this is truly a transcendent work of literature, and I cannot wait to continue on with this series, but I will be moving on to my next read now. Okay. Hello, friends. I'm now currently reading Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, and I have some thoughts, you guys. So I don't love this book, and Aaron is probably going to be so shook, because I started reading this book a while ago actually, and in the beginning of the book I was really loving it, and so I expressed a lot of that love to her because Fitz is one of Aaron's favorite characters. But I really don't love this book. I don't, and I hope that Aaron is not going to beat me up over it, but I don't love it. What a weird location to vlog in. But anyways, so I'm not invested in anything that's happening in this book. So I think that first I should tell you guys what this book is really about before we get all the way into it. So basically this book is about this character named Fitz. Fitz is the bastard son of the crown prince or whatever in this kingdom called the Six Duchies. So we follow Fitz as he is you know, discovered as this bastard child, and he's brought into the royal palace, and how he kind of becomes involved in a lot of this like political intrigue shit that's happening at the palace. So we're following Fitz as he becomes an assassin's apprentice, since he can't hold any like political titles himself. But basically, this is just like a really tragic story of Fitz's upbringing and how literally nobody gives a fuck about this man. And it's very, very sad and pitiful. So, here's what I'm gonna say about this book. I think that Robin Hobb is really good at emotionally manipulating the reader. I think that she's really good at making you feel like you care about Fitz, but I know for a fact that I do not care about Fitz, and he's not a character that I feel passionately about one way or another. I don't necessarily find him to be a particularly interesting character, but I am rooting for him because of the way that Robin Hobb writes his narrative, because his narrative is just so sad, and it's like watching somebody kick a puppy over and over and over again. Like, obviously you're going to feel bad for the puppy. A very blatant emotional appeal, and she does that well so that you're invested in Fitz as a person. I wanted his life to get better. Like, his life really sucked, and honestly they're kind of treating him like a dog. Like, he slept in the stables when he was growing up and shit, and it's like really fucked up, right? So I'm like, I keep reading and I keep being invested because I want to see Fitz's life get better. But it's very obvious to me, like 200 pages in, this man's life is never going to get better. It's probably just going to keep getting worse. Which is like, okay, I'm not interested in that necessarily. I don't want to see that. And then I feel like I don't care about the plot, because the plot of this book is about, like, yeah, so in the foreground Fitz is learning to be an assassin, and he's like navigating his way through like the court politics as this bastard son. But there's also something going on in this kingdom of the Six Duchies where there are these people called the Red Ship Raiders, and the Red Ship Raiders are kidnapping people, and they're doing something to them that kind of turns them into zombies. So these zombies are being taken out of the community and then reintroduced into the community, and they like basically are destroying all of these towns, and it's causing a lot of like instability in the country now because of these people coming in and like ravaging their own villages. So basically there's all this like political turmoil because of all of this instability in the country's coast. And to be completely honest, I don't give a fuck about these zombies. Like, I don't care at all. It's not interesting to me, and there's nothing about that that's like compelling. And I don't care about the Six Duchies. Like, I don't care if, you know, they can save the city. Like, I don't care about any of that. None of that is interesting to me. Hi friends, I ended up finishing Assassin's Apprentice last night, and I am conflicted because the ending of this book was actually pretty interesting, and there was a lot of like political intrigue, and there was like some actual assassin stuff, and it was interesting. I did actually enjoy the ending a lot, and I think that the way that Robin Hobb, like, I don't know, tied the story together was like kind of fun. But I don't know. As I said before, I just don't feel as connected to the story as I would have liked to. So I don't feel like as connected to Fitz as I might like to, and I don't feel super connected to like the overall plot. I definitely understand why Erin really loves this book, because she loves when characters go through a lot of strife and a lot of suffering, and Fitz definitely goes through it in this book. I mean, there is no stone unturned when it comes to causing this man to suffer. And so I think that it makes sense why Erin enjoys this. It's just like very sadistic, truly, what goes on to Fitz in this book. So I understand why she likes it. I can't say that it's like a new favorite for me. Yeah, completed this one, and I'm moving on to my next read, which is going to be Red Rising, which you can see in the background right there. Before I dive into Red Rising, I did want to quickly mention some stuff that's going on with Erin at the moment, because since this video is all about like celebrating her and her tastes and everything and her content, I do want to give a shout out to some of her content. So this month it's March right now. I'm going to have this video up hopefully like, it's like the 3rd of March. It's the 3rd of March. Hopefully I'm going to have this video up maybe next week, and so it should still be enough time for you guys to join Erin's readathon. She's doing a readathon called the War Games readathon. I will leave the link to Erin's like announcement video if maybe you want to check out her readathon. It seems really cool, and I don't know, I know that Erin put a lot of thought and a lot of effort into it, so you should definitely check it out if you're a readathon kind of person. Like I said, I'll leave the link to that in the description below. Alright, the lighting looks really bad, so sorry about it. But I'm like 100 100-ish pages, maybe like 130 pages into Red Rising, and I'm really enjoying it. Essentially, we're following this character named Darrow, and he is a miner on Mars. So he is mining helium-3, and this is supposed to be used to terraform Mars, and he and his people have been lied to for generations and told that they are helping in this terraforming effort so that humanity can be brought to Mars because Earth is dying and blah blah blah. In actuality, him and his people are slaves, and Mars has been terraformed for centuries, and people are living in opulence and living these decadent lifestyles. Meanwhile, his people, the Reds, are all like subjugated. So we're following Darrow on this journey where he gets recruited by like this terrorist organization that is trying to start a revolution from the inside of the government. So they recruit him and they change him so that he can pass as another social class or whatever, another social color. So he's going to become a gold instead of being a red, and he's going to infiltrate gold society and, like, I don't know, be able to do the bidding of like this terrorist organization basically. But I really am loving it. I really like the writing style. I see why it's so popular, why so many people like it, and I would definitely, like, I don't know, I keep coming back to this Hunger Games comparison because it really does remind me of the vibes of that series. And I don't know, it's interesting so far. I definitely want to know where it's going next. Darrow's a pretty cool character. There is this section of the book where he is undergoing this like transformation so that he can be a gold, and the scenes where he's undergoing this transformation and like the surgeries that they do on him is like so fucked up and gross, but like I was so obsessed with it. Like the idea that technology could be so advanced that they could change his entire body that way was so interesting. So it was like really weird but intriguing. So yeah, I'm enjoying this one a lot, and I will let you guys know if my feelings change or if something comes up. But like, yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm currently doing some reading sprints with Aaron and our other friend Justice and Alana. So yeah, we're gonna be doing some reading sprints, and I will let you guys know what happens when I get further in. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, so I might look a little bit rough right now. I most definitely just stayed up all night and finished Red Rising. It was really good, but I have some very conflicted feelings on it. So like I was saying before, this book is basically about Darrow, and he is a red in this society. The Reds are subjugated and oppressed, and he is trying to pass himself off as a gold so that he can infiltrate gold society, and he can use his position as a gold to help his fellow Reds and to dismantle the society from the inside out. So he has to go to this place called the Institute, which is where like high tier golds are like tested and trained or whatever. And so at the Institute, they are in this game, which is kind of like the Hunger Games but on acid, and so they have to be trapped in this place for like an entire year, and there's like all these different kingdoms, and they have to like try and conquer each other and shit. And so we're basically following Darrow as he is like undergoing this test thingamabob game, whatever, however you would say it. So as I said, it was very much giving Hunger Games. He was not giving Katniss Everdeen. He was on some very wild shit, but I really couldn't stop reading it. I did think that it was really compelling and interesting, especially Darrow. I really like Darrow and like his inner monologue, and I think it was particularly interesting to see how, I don't want to say how easily he forgets like his initial mission, which is just like infiltrating their society, and how quickly he starts to think in the same terms that the golds do, and he starts to think that like he's better than other people, he's superior in this way and that, and he's like, I don't know, I wouldn't say he becomes like a tyrant, but it's just interesting to see the things that he does and the justifications that he makes up for it. And so I did like that. I thought that was interesting. I appreciated that, well, relatively enough. It was interesting. I did like it. One thing that I really did not like though, okay, so there's these two characters. There's this one character, I won't say their names, but there's this one character like earlier in the story when they're playing this game, and he is like he's a shitty person, whatever, and he is like assaulting women. So then they decide that like he needs to be punished, and they kill him. And then they're like, oh, we shouldn't have killed him, that wasn't really justice, that was revenge, blah blah blah. So there's this whole like, oh, we shouldn't have killed him. And I'm like, I don't know about all that, chief. And then later on, there's another character who assaults this woman, and it's like a whole thing, and they're like, okay, so how are we going to punish him? So they end up punishing him, and like he gets flogged or like whipped or whatever. So they whip him, and forgive and forget. And I was like, okay, so if I'm supposed to believe that, you know, this flogging was punishment enough and he's never going to hurt anybody again, like, okay. But then he became like a part of the main crew. Like he was a part of Daryl's like generals in his little army and shit. And it was just like, huh? Like seeing this man make jokes, he's ha-ha and he and he fucking kiki-ing with everybody after they all know that he just assaulted somebody. I don't understand. Like it's not really making sense to me. So I can't really make sense of that choice, because the book really tries to sell it like this moment of like sparing his life, but just whipping him is like true justice. I don't know. They should have at least shunned his ass. Like he shouldn't have been all besties and shit after. That was really like, that was really shitty. I was waiting for him to die. Like they killing every damn body in this book, and he lived. Why? I don't really know what exactly I should rate Red Rising. I'm thinking it's like a 3.5 star. I'll probably round it up to like 4 stars. I did think that it was a cool book. I really like Pierce Brown's writing style and everything, and it is like a really dark story and, you know, whatever. But I just still kind of can't get over that thing where that guy who assaults women, like, we just supposed to be cool with him at the end of the book. Like, I think the fuck not, you trick ass bitch. Like, okay friends, so I just completed the Rage of Dragons, and I don't know if I filmed a lot of updates about this book, which is interesting because I had a lot of thoughts on it, so we're just gonna have to dive into that. So the Rage of Dragons, we follow this character named Tao, part of this group of people called the Omehi, and they have basically like aggressively colonized this peninsula, and so his people are constantly at war with the indigenous people of this land called the Hedeni. And so because they're in like this constant war, all young men are like trained to be soldiers, and Tao is about to take his like militaristic testing so that he can train for a year and then become a fully enlisted soldier in this never-ending war. So Tao is really against this. He doesn't want to be a part of the war. The reason, he just kind of wants to live an easy life with this girl that he likes and maybe have a few kids, some land and stuff. So he's really not about that whole warrior life. So things really don't go according to plan, and some of his loved ones die. And so this book is about Tao seeking his vengeance against the people who orchestrated the murder of this family member. So I have a lot of thoughts on this book, and I don't know exactly how to start off. So I guess I'll do like a pros and cons list. So I think maybe I want to start with the cons first. So let's get into that. So the first con that I have is that Tao, I don't particularly think he's an interesting protagonist. Like, there's nothing wrong with him, but his inner life is very bleak. There's just nothing going on in his head besides his vengeance and his quest to become like the world's greatest fighter so that he can like duel these people who are responsible for his family's murder. So there's nothing particularly wrong with that. Like, his motivations were strong, they made sense and everything like that, but he just wasn't like, it wasn't interesting being in his mind, and he was never thinking anything particularly interesting. So I think that for me, he just wasn't a particularly strong protagonist. And so at some points I really wish that there were like more POVs in this book, because I think that this is a really fascinating world and there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on, and Tao is kind of on the outskirts of all of the interesting stuff that's happening until the very end of the book. So I would have loved it if we could have had maybe some other POVs interspersed more frequently, because the book is never slow. It's very action heavy. Like the prologue is this huge battle where we see the Omehi conquering the Hideni, and then from this prologue we're just constantly seeing fight scenes and training sequences and fight scenes and training sequences over and over again. So I won't say that it's like, I won't say that it's boring in terms of the pacing, but I'll just say that there's nothing going on. There's a bit of like repetitiveness to it because it's all just like fighting and fight scenes and fighting and fight scenes. So I mean, it was really engaging to read, but at the same time I wish that there was something else going on and that there was more, I don't know, just more happening. So then my next con, and I guess my final con, is really going to be that I felt like the character dynamics in this book were really, really weak. Like, I'm going to say something, it might technically be a spoiler, but it also mentions it in the synopsis, so I don't think so. But basically, the person who is murdered and that Tao is seeking vengeance for is his father. So his father is murdered and he's seeking revenge for his father's murder. And obviously, you know, he loved his father, but I think that it would have been cool if there was more showing me like Tao's relationship with his dad, like what their relationship was like, why his dad is so important to him. I mean, obviously it's his father, so you know why he's so important to him, but I wish that there was more. Like, I feel like there's a lot of just like inferences made as a reader that like, oh well, that's his dad, so of course he loves him and he feels connected to him. But I wish that there were more scenes, more moments, like intimate moments that made it feel like, oh, you know, like this hurts so bad for me as a reader when his dad is killed. I didn't feel anything personally. It was just like, oh, I'm sure that feels horrible for Tao. So I wish that there was a little bit more, I don't know, development of like the intimacy between him and his dad's relationship. And additionally, I feel like Tao has no real connections with other people. Like, there are other people in his life that are like his sword brothers, his like training, the people that he trains with, and like his military group, and they're kind of his friends, but not because Tao has any particular feelings about them, but because they want to be Tao's friend. And like, I just feel like those connections could have been stronger. There's like a romance in this between him and this girl Zuri, and I felt like their relationship was so poorly developed. It was so shitty in my opinion. Despite what the author is trying to tell me, there just wasn't shit there. There was no chemistry to me. There was nothing sweet about their relationship. Nothing about it really made sense. It just was kind of like two people thrown together because it made sense for the story's narrative. And Zuri's character is really underserved. Mostly her role is to like Tao and to give Tao insider information that he would otherwise not be privy to. And that's pretty much all she does. But she just doesn't have enough, I don't know, weight on the page, right? And I feel like their relationship didn't have any weight or substance, in my opinion. On to the pros of this book. I think that the world that this story is built in is so fascinating. So basically, the Omehi, they have these gifts and they can like draw power from the underworld, and they use this power to be able to like control dragons. This is why they're called like the Rage of Dragons. And I think that the dragon scenes are really cool, and the way that they like connect with the dragons and stuff is really fascinating. I really enjoy the fact that this story is also from the point of view of the Omehi, who are very much in the wrong. Like, they are colonizers, they have colonized this land, and the indigenous people are fighting back against them. And absolutely, like, justice for the Hideni. I'm absolutely on the Hideni side. Like, fuck the Omehi, they suck, right? So I think that it was very interesting of Evan Winter to choose to make the Omehi like the center of the story, and you can just see them doing the wrong thing. Like, just you can see them doing the wrong thing and being in the wrong the whole book. And I think that that's fascinating, especially because you see how the Omehi society is like really fucked up, and there's like this whole caste system, like this social caste system, and Tao is at like the bottom of the caste system, so we get some like social commentary there about the caste system and stuff. And I just think that it's like interesting. I think it's fascinating how the Omehi society is really fucked up, and the way that we are in the POV of this fucked up society. I think that the Hideni definitely need their point of view to be pushed to the forefront. Like, there need to be some Hideni characters with a POV in subsequent books, I think. But I do think that it was an interesting risk that Evan Winter took by making the Omehi, who are definitely wrong, be like the center focus of the story. I read some reviews that say that like the colonization in this book and the colonialism is not challenged, but it definitely is challenged, I would say, the main characters just are a part of the fucked up system. But it's definitely challenged and questioned and presented as very wrong and fucked up what they're doing. So I do think that the colonialism in the story is challenged, but it is also very uncomfortable to read. Okay, so some more pros. I think that the fight scenes in this are so iconic. Some of the best fight scenes I have ever read in my life. I think that Evan Winter is a really good writer, and he's really good at writing action. So amazing. Like, also another pro, there's a lot of really cool side characters in this. I think that's why I feel like I feel like Tao is not necessarily like my favorite, because every time a side character would have a little bit of page time, I would immediately become obsessed with them and so intrigued by them in ways that I have never been intrigued by Tao as a protagonist. And so I think that for me, that just showed that Tao was not a strong enough protagonist if I'm immediately obsessed with side characters who get like 5 pages of dialogue. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, like, while Tao wasn't the strongest and most interesting protagonist, there's so many interesting things going on around him that it still made the story fascinating. But yeah, overall I'd say that it was a pretty interesting story, and I would like to know where it's going to go from here. And hopefully it will continue to address like the colonialism that has been brought forward in this series. I hope that that's something that we'll continue to explore, because it is a really fucked up thing that's going on here. So I would like to know more about this and more about the Hedeni and their culture and stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and I definitely see why Erin loves it, because she is definitely she's definitely someone who loves violence and murder, and she really likes violent protagonists, and she likes stories where there's a lot of like chaos and violence and strife and stuff, and this definitely had that. So I completely see why she enjoyed it. And yeah, so overall it was a pretty good read, and yeah, I would definitely give it like 4 stars, I think. To wrap this video up, I have read 4 of Erin's faves, and I would say that this was a pretty successful video. I really enjoyed most of these books, and I definitely understand why they are some favorites of Erin. So just to quickly recap all of the books, we have The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, which was my first read. I absolutely adored it, gave it 5 stars. It's one of the best fantasy books I've ever read in my life. So then I read Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This book was well written, but definitely not completely for me. I don't necessarily care enough to continue on with his series, so I gave this one a solid 3 star. Then we have Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This really brutal, fast-paced, Hunger Games-esque sci-fi. There was definitely some questionable stuff in here with regards to sexual violence, and I think that the author hopefully will address that in subsequent books. But I would say that overall it was a really compelling story, and I really am intrigued by the world, intrigued by where the story is going to go. So I definitely want to continue, and I'm going to give this one a solid 4 stars. And finally, The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, which I gave a solid 4 stars. This was a story with really interesting world building, complex politics. Not my favorite protagonist, but I think that where the story and Tao as an individual are going to go in subsequent novels will be really fascinating. And that is the end of the vlog. I want to thank Erin so much for being with me this entire journey. I never like really recorded any clips, but I basically get on Zoom and do reading sprints with Erin like multiple nights a week, and she definitely keeps me accountable and helps me keep reading and keep like my reading mojo going. So it was really fun to be able to read and like do the reading sprints with her and talk with her about the books, as well as my other friends like Monty and Alana and Justice and stuff like that. It's really fun reading with them, but it was also really wonderful to kind of do this experience and be filming it, but also discussing with Erin as I went along about like all of my thoughts and opinions and stuff. So yeah, thank you so much, Erin, for being the muse of this video. And it was really fun to make. It was cool reading all these books, and for the most part I enjoyed them. So I would definitely say that Erin has good taste, and I would say that our taste is like kind of compatible. It's not always going to be a hit, but I don't think that Erin will ever completely miss, if that makes any sense. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts were on them, and if maybe you'll read some in the future. Also, let me know who you think I should do for the next installment of Mina Reads Your Faves. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all in my next video. Bye, you guys.